Welcome back. I'm your host, Mallory Sugar. This is The Edge, a show that discusses topics that teenagers today may face. Some teens today have faced the difficult topic of drinking and driving. Whether it be from personal experience, hearing a story, or watching the news, students have encountered this problem. Drinking and driving crashes are those that involve one driver with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08 or above, which is the legal definition of impaired driving. 1 in 10 teens in high school say they have driven while under the influence. Today, we have Mrs. Kristen Neff joining us. Mrs. Neff is a teacher sponsor of the SAD Club at Peters Township High School and has been working with them for the past 3 years. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, SAD stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions. And if I am right, it used to stand for Students Against Drinking and Driving. Why did that change?
And that is right. It used to be focusing just on drinking and driving until about the mid-90s. And then they started realizing that that's not the only thing that students have problems with that they are facing in their everyday lives. It's not just the drinking, it's prescription pills, it's marijuana. It could be even something simple as an eating disorder. It can be personal stress. And so they wanted to take a look at everything that a student might face so then everybody could feel included in the club instead of just focusing on the drinking, because not everybody has that as a problem.
So when was that change made?
It was the mid-90s. I think it was in 97, so way before our time.
Way before I was born. So what is SAD exactly? What do you do around the school? Who does it involve? All of that.
So a couple things that we are known for specifically is the mock crash. That is the big one that people know the SAD Club for. Some of the other things that people don't really recognize is we always do the Spread the Word to End the Word with the Best Buddies program as well, not using the word retard and its negative effects. We also do the program in the fall where we're taking a look at some other kind of prescription drugs and how bad things. Some of the students around the high school have probably noticed that there were body outlines around the school, like taped on the floor. So, and they were representing some teen deaths that have occurred at an enormous rate as opposed to previous years. So we wanted to highlight some of those things and bring them to attention. So suicide, not just the drinking and driving, but distracted driving. Unfortunately, that's the new wave that I think the SAD Club is going to start taking is towards distracted driving. Having a cell phone, playing too much music too loud, having too many friends in the car, just all the things that you don't think about when you're 16, 17 years old that can really have a big consequence on your life.
So earlier you said about the mock crash. What is that for people who don't know?
Oh, good question. So the mock crash is an event that the SAD Club puts on every 2 years. And we focus on the juniors and seniors because they are the ones that are invited to prom. But there will be an alternate activity for the freshman and sophomore to be involved in. But the mock crash is basically a simulation of a crash that was as a result of drinking and driving, impaired driving of some sort. And allows the rest of the school to see what actually happens as a result. So they get to really feel what it's like to have the sirens blaring and see your friend laying dead on the hood of a car, having to see somebody get handcuffed and pulled away, try to lift up somebody in your car's hand and them not respond. So it allows the rest of the school to see what it could feel like if it was somebody that you actually knew. Because unfortunately, when you're, so young, you also don't think it could ever happen to you. And it could. And we just want to make it known like what actually it entails and kind of do a scare tactic, but also just make the realization that this is somebody's friend. This is somebody's daughter that might not be coming home the next day.
So the alternate activity is for freshmen and sophomores.
So
what is that?
Yeah, the freshmen and sophomores this year are going to also hear about drinking and driving from teachers in the school. And I think that's a really good thing because a lot of students think, oh yeah, yet again, it's somebody that's not in Peters Township, but even your own teachers have gone through different experiences with drinking and driving. And then afterward, we are going to have a speaker who attempted to commit suicide and survived. And he's going to come and talk about all the decisions that led him to that point and how he could have changed his course of path in life just from, the get-go, as opposed to letting it spiral, and all the steps that somebody in a similar situation could take if they were thinking that they were going down that path and, didn't want to live. There's definitely other options, and that's not the way to go. There's other better ways.
So was this your idea, the mock crash, or was it going on before you were involved?
The mock crash has been going on for years. I actually watched it when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
I went to Moon High School, and that is what got me so interested in SAD from years ago. It just hit home so in-depthly. Like, I saw my friends laying there on the ground.
Yeah.
I saw their moms on the side crying, and I knew I never wanted to be in that situation, and I knew I never wanted any of my friends to be in that situation. So it's been going on for at least 12 years. Yeah, that wasn't obvious, right? So at this school, it has been going on for about 20 years. One of the ladies in charge that I work with is Sandy McMurray at the ambulance department, and her son was actually in one of the very first mock crashes. So she's been around for a very long time, and we've got a lot of support from the community and from the teachers, from police, fire department, even communities next door. We work really close with Cannonsburg Hospital as well, and it takes a village.
Yeah. What do like the other the people involved? What do they do to like help with this and bring it all together?
That's the nice part about it,
Yeah.
is that, yes, I'm here to do all the legwork behind it, but it is all student run. Like, they are coming up with the idea of what they want the crash to entail. Like, if they, in previous years, it's been focused at prom. In some years, it's been focused at before they even got to prom. Some have been after. And this year, they're coming up with their own ideas. Like, do they want it to focus on the drunk driver causing the accident or a distracted driver causing an accident? So they are kind of taking it all and running with it. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with. I know the gist of it, and I'll keep that hush hush. But in general, the students are doing all the legwork. Like, they are looking for donations. They are meeting after school to come up with game plans as to who's going to fill in role and who is going to, unfortunately, be the one that passes away, who's the one that is going to be at fault. Because, being amongst their peers later on in the day, it's going to be interesting for them to answer those questions. So everybody needs to be prepared for anything that might entail, but they really are doing all the work. And even the club members that are not involved directly in the crash are being involved in other ways. They are going to be the ones that direct the students into the parking lot, make sure that everything's safe for not just the observers, but also the actors involved. We have them working with the fire department already to see what else is needed on our end. They're taking care of the technology requests. They are making sure that all the audio is set up. They are introducing the speakers for the freshmen and sophomore, making sure that that's smooth sailing while other people are focusing on the mock crash. So it takes a village, but it even takes a student village. And it's really nice to see like your classmates step up and take a leadership role, and really it's their crash. So it's nice to just see the caliber of student involvement in something that is so tremendous and such a good cause.
So do you have to be in SAD to be involved with the mock crash, or can you be like a student from any grade? Or
Well, so in general, I would say that the members of the mock crash do come from the SAD club. That way we know that they are serious about the message, and they have put in their time and effort. But anybody can be in the club, so it does leave it open to anybody also being in the crash as well. We always have people come in the middle of the school year, even whenever like dues aren't accepted anymore, that say that they just want to help out. They want to be involved in a video. They want to be able to come and see what's going on behind the scenes, so then they can report back to their classmates too. But we are very open to anybody joining.
How do you join if I was looking to join?
Oh, well, speaking of, so you can come see me, Mrs. Neff, or Miss McCarthy anytime during the school, and we can give you a little paper. At the beginning of the year is when we really open up membership, as well as the rest of the clubs in the school, and there is an activity fee and a paper, that document that needs to be signed. But at this point, anybody that wanted to join and participate is more than welcome to at least come to our meeting. Our next meeting is actually on Wednesday, March 14th, after school in the cafeteria, so that would be.
And you also talked about another activity that you do with the SAD Club. Can you elaborate more on that? The week, sorry, I don't remember. You said something about a week throughout school. You guys do stuff around the school. Can you elaborate, please?
Yeah, so we always also do, what's that called in the fall?
Spirit Week?
No. I know, this is going to drive me crazy. Red Ribbon Week.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, I do it all the time. So, thank you. Red Ribbon Week is another activity that we are involved with, and that is the one that focuses on students getting away from substance abuse. And in previous years, we have worked closely with the counseling department at the school and tried to come up with activities or incentives for kids to stay drug-free. We usually do like a spirit day for each day that kind of relates to making better decisions about substance abuse. So one of the themes might be like wear neon colors to like bright out and get away from, you know, the bad hazards of substances. And we did like a twin day the one year. So, you know, you actually like stuck with a buddy instead of, you know, just letting something as crazy as a pill, you know, take place of a real person connection. So that's another activity that we really like to be involved with. And I know in the future, the SAD Club really wants to spend more time focusing on that, especially at the beginning of the school year, because it comes usually in October, right around homecoming week. So if we could kind of get everybody pumped up for homecoming and pumped up for ending substance abuse, that would be a great idea, right?
It's a win-win.
Yes.
So earlier you said the reason you got involved with the SAD program is because of your high school experience. Did you or anyone you knew, were they involved with drinking and driving or like throughout your high school?
Unfortunately, they were. And that kind of caused me to take a more substantial stand against it, because I would see and it wasn't just the drinking and driving, it was just the bad decisions that my friends that would make, and I never wanted to see them end up in a body bag. So I started getting really involved in the club as well. We had Grim Reaper Day, and that's the one that really shook me too. And we do that at Peters Township High School as well, where the statistic was every 51 minutes somebody dies as a result of alcohol-related accident. So we paint their faces white, and then they have to go around the whole day and not talk and wear black and act like, you know, this is what it would be like if, you know, Mallory wasn't in all your classes. Like you still see her and you remember her, but this is what it would be like to not actually have a conversation with her. And when I did that in high school, I went home crying to my mom, and I said, I never want to go to school without being able to talk to anybody again. It was just so powerful for me. And in terms of just the drinking and driving, like I definitely set myself up with friend groups that made better decisions. Like we did not drink at all on the weekends, anytime. But, you know, there was kids who, you know, sometimes slide away and said, oh, I'm going to go to a party where there is alcohol. But it was nice to know that they would come back and they could go to a party without drinking. Like there is definitely other things that you can do at a party. Like you just socializing and having a great time, playing games. There's so many things. And I think for a high school student now, there's so much pressure, but there's also so many opportunities to steer away from that. And even if they do make the bad decision to drink, you have the opportunity to, you know, use an Uber or call a friend to come pick you up. Things that I might not have had in high school. Like a lot of my friends didn't drive. So, you know, if you were stuck at a party and people were, you know, making that decision, you just stayed instead of, you know, risked getting in a car with somebody, which you should never, ever do. There's so many other opportunities to avoid that situation.
Do you have any advice for people who maybe are involved with the wrong crowd and want to find the right crowd like you did in high school?
Yeah, I think what I would like to say to the crew at Peters Township, just all the students, is they might think it's a minority that doesn't drink and do drugs of any sort, but it really isn't. It just is the loud minority that is making such a bad influence and impact on what others perceive is going on in the community. There are other options. There's other activities that you can join in, even if you don't want to join SAD and you don't want somebody to know, like, oh, I don't make those decisions. I don't drink. Peer pressure is very hard at any school, especially at Peters. But I would stress that they're not alone. A lot of people are making good decisions, and if you find yourself in the wrong crowd, it's never too late to make new friends. There's so many activities, there's so many clubs that are open to everybody that you just need to put yourself out there and change it up. I mean, it's worth your life.
It really is. It makes all the difference. So what advice would you give to someone who maybe is at a party, has been drinking, and sees someone else try to? What advice would you give to someone to stop that? Like, what steps should they take?
So the immediate thing is just to end any possibility of somebody getting in a car. Once you get behind a vehicle, and I teach physics, I know the momentum behind it. When you're getting behind a 20,000-pound car, you're going to do some serious damage, even if you think you might have just had one sip. Even for how small you guys are, it makes a huge intake on your body. So if you see somebody in that situation, do whatever it takes. Steal their keys. They're probably going to forget it anyway. So. Really, if you think that you're making an enemy at that point, you're not making an enemy. Do what you can to plan ahead, so then you're not in that situation. Like, plan that somebody is going to be the driver. So not that you would, have a bunch of, drunken friends, but at least you go into it knowing that if something happens, like even if somebody gets sick or somebody's too tired driving is just as bad. It's still impaired. But planning like that. Also, I think we all forget that you guys are under 18. You have parents. Like, your parents care about you so much, and they don't want you to be in that situation. And if it comes down to it, calling your mom at 2 o'clock in the morning because you are not feeling safe, there's no way anybody would ever question that. And I hope that high school kids realize that. Like, you're not going to get in trouble for asking for help when you are trying to do the right thing. And same thing with the police as well. A lot of kids who do end up in that situation and say, I can't call the police, my friend's really sick, because we'll get in trouble. You're not going to get in trouble. They are going to make sure that everybody is safe first, and then we'll go back and analyze the situation. So, do not make a second bad decision to fix one bad decision.
So say you're driving home late one night and you weren't at the party, you're driving home and you see someone who you think it could be drinking and driving. How would you report that?
So you can always call the police. You can always dial 911. That is absolutely fine. What I would do, especially if you know the person, because I wouldn't follow a stranger, but if you can follow them home, just to make sure that they are getting home safely. But you can always dial 911 and just report it. And it can stay anonymous, so then you don't have to, if you're afraid to, face the person the next day, just reporting an anonymous tip is absolutely the way to go, because it's not worth it just to hope that they make it home okay. Because even if they make it home okay, maybe, their swerving caused somebody else to get in a crash, and then we're back to the, same point. Somebody else's bad decision became a horrible consequence for somebody who was doing the right thing.
Yeah. So from someone who has had experience knowing people who drink and drive, why do you think people do it? I mean, stupid decision.
If that was the best question I've ever been asked, because I would love to know the answer to that too. I think a lot of it is peer pressure, the drinking part. You don't want to be the only person, but you're not going to be the only person, especially if you don't, put yourself in that situation. The drinking and driving, I think a lot of kids are afraid. They're afraid to come home late and miss curfew, so then they get their phone taken away. They're afraid that they are going to get stuck at the party and then have to deal with the aftermath of somebody's mom coming home, or a cop, busting it, or just having to deal with cleanup. But I think it's more of an afraid and not the ignorance of realizing that it's such a bigger picture than coming home 5 minutes late.
From a teenager's perspective, I can totally understand that. I mean, you don't want to be in trouble, but to save someone's life would be so much more important.
Yeah, I'm glad that you think like that. I wish more people were like
Yeah.
you.
So you said back that your parents would want you to be safe. What advice should you, to have that conversation with your parents? If I need a ride, like how should one go about that?
One of the best suggestions I ever heard from somebody was having a keyword, so then you didn't have to say anything on the phone. And it's nice because you guys also text as well. So, if somebody saw your phone, send a text that says, I forgot to pick up milk. So somebody reading that might think, oh, she didn't pick that up for her mom at the grocery store. But that is your signal that I am in trouble. I need help. I need somebody to come pick me up. So then you can just kind of slyly avoid any confrontation that you think you might have, which you probably won't anyway, but at least it's putting it out there. A lot of parents, definitely from talking to them, they don't even realize that they're sending their kids to a party that might have something inappropriate going on. So even just keeping them aware, say, Mom and Dad, I'm going to go to this friend's house. Their parents let them drink, but I will not drink. Like hearing that from a teenager, and unfortunately I don't have children yet, but if I heard that from, my daughter, knowing that you were going to make a decision, unlike some of her classmates, like that just really stands up in terms of maturity and, smart decision making. So keeping parents in the loop, they really aren't your enemies. They're your friends. Like they mean well. They feed you, they bathed you for, 16 years. They deserve the benefit of the doubt that you can trust them and they will do anything in their power to make sure that you're okay. Even if it does, take an awkward conversation to say, I'm going to be around something that I know I shouldn't be.
So you obviously know a lot about the topic. Does that influence when you go out with your friends and you may be drinking? Like, how do you maybe try to steer your friends away? Not saying they would, but like, how does that influence your everyday life, or whenever you go out on weekends, go out to dinner, how does that affect you?
And I think that's a really good question too, Mallory, because even so, I'm over 21, obviously I am allowed to drink, but that doesn't mean that I'm not drinking irresponsibly. I too like to have, a couple glasses of wine, but when I do, I make sure that I'm with somebody that can take me home. I just actually had a friend call me this weekend, funny that you asked, called me at 1:45 in the morning, asked for a ride home. I left immediately, no questions asked, picked her up, took her home, took her to go get her car in the morning. It was not a big deal. So even adults have to realize that even though it's legal for you to drink, you still need to take some kind of precautions. And it's really nice now with Uber, with, just having so much available Lyft to be able to avoid those situations. Like if I would have had that in college, things would have been a lot different with some of my friends that didn't make it through from bad decisions.
So I know this has been an issue for a long time. Would you say it's more an issue now than it was when you were a teenager, or less, or the same?
I think drinking and driving has been less of an issue. I think we've, in terms of SAG Club and in terms of as America, have done really good at hitting home that is a bad decision. And the statistics have gone down over the years. What seems to be the new peril is distracted driving. In terms of that, not realizing that looking down at your phone for a split second and your reaction time really makes a difference. The other thing that seems to also be, now that drugs are becoming a lot more readily available, is the prescription drugs. Faking prescriptions or buying them from friends of friends. I feel that that's the new wave of things that we need to be focusing on. Not that drinking and driving has gone completely away. There's, it's still prevalent, but I think good efforts have been taken to diminish that as much as possible so far. We just got to keep rallying at it.
So we talked about peer pressure being like a big impact on drinking and driving, and even texting and driving and everything like that. Do you think social media plays a big role in that too nowadays?
Oh, you let's hit the nail on the head. And it's funny because if you ask an adult, usually we don't really know what's going on. So that's one of the best things I love about being the SAD Club sponsor, because I hear about all the pressures that high school kids are going through from the student members. I didn't know that you could Snapchat, a whole story and, record your whole night, and people have gone through, and you've probably seen it on the internet or in the news that people who have like actually filmed themselves driving drunk. Like who would have thought that that was a good idea? Obviously not, people like us. But I think social media, because there's always that fight for more likes, there's fight for being in the top light, for people to know what you're doing, people to know how cool you are, and it's not cool. But I think social media takes a real big influence on where things have been going in terms of the distracted driving, the need to be in the limelight and part of the popular crowd or what is actually going on. And I think that's why it makes it so hard for a high school kid to not realize that it is a minority that is making these bad decisions. Because when you look on Facebook, if you look on Instagram, people who are posting that are the people who are the minority, but they are the ones that are trying to make it known that that is what everybody's doing. But it's not everybody.
Yeah. So as a society today, not just high schoolers, everybody, how do you think we can help solve that problem and maybe come together and realize maybe this is not what we should be doing with everything?
I think making a very open dialogue and just making it very trusting of each other. And it's hard to, as a young person, know who to trust. But you've got plenty of people in the school. Like your teachers are more than willing to, talk to you and just make sure that you're on the right frame of mind. We've got a great counseling department at the school. In general, we have been asked many times for the fire department or the police to come and talk to high school kids, because they want to know what is it that they can do to help you guys instead of speeding through a parking lot. Like, how could they start waving towards getting a fix on some things. So it really does take a village, and I think keeping an open dialogue and realizing that adults are not an enemy and kids are not dumb, stupid decision makers, realize that everybody's just trying to have a good time and love life. So
thank you so much. So it looks like it's all the time we have for today. For anyone that encounters a situation involving drinking and driving, I hope this information can help you make the right decision. Thank you, Mrs. Neff, for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on our show. Remember to call the local police or any of the steps we talked about when you suspect that someone may be drinking and driving, for it might save a life. See you next time on The Edge.